right, welcome back to the Local Lens Media Podcast. My name is Adam Dobbins. I am the Director of Sales here at Walnut Media, and I am joined once again back from paternity leave by my compadre, my elite account executive, Mr. Andrew Botwinick. Welcome back, man.
It's good to be back. Good to be back. I heard Jackson had a great podcast last week with you. And if you haven't listened to it yet, go back, take a listen to it. You guys talked about all things digital.
Yeah, it was a good one. It was time to go take a trip down the digital digital landscape and talk about some of those amazing tactics, how we help our clients and how we serve them on the digital side. So he did a fantastic job, but we are glad you're back. It's glad to have the band back together for another episode. We got to tell everyone to this podcast coming to you from the Performance Podcast Studios at the Walnut Media Compound. It is brought to you by Home Shield Roofing and Exteriors, one of the fastest growing roofing and exterior companies in Omaha, and they're growing fast for a reason, Andrew.
They really are. I know Steve and his team have a really great opportunity for anybody who's interested in roofing. A personal story from a networking event where I had met with Steve from Home Shield. My mother-in-law was in the process of getting a quote from a different roofing company that she was a little skeptical about. And I had floated Steve's name to her and said, just give Steve a call at Home Shield. He'll take care of you. He treats his clients real well. I know him personally. He's a great guy. She called Steve. Steve came out, said, hey, what they're quoting you is not actually what you need. This is what I would recommend. It was a lot cheaper, a much better product. And Steve took care of her from the jump. And that's why I personally have some great success stories from Home Shield.
You know, when it comes to getting a new roof, you got to be able to trust the company you're working with. And Steve at Home Shield is the guy you want to work with. So if you're even on the verge, maybe you're looking in 2026, you don't know when you're going to do it, but you know you need to do it. Reach out to Steve at Home Shield. You can find them at homeshieldroofingandexteriors.com.
And if you haven't yet had a call and had someone come out because of all the hail and the storming that we had during the summer, get it checked out now. I know right now is probably not the greatest time during the winter, but when it starts to warm up, they're already booking out into early spring. So get on the books now if you're curious or interested.
All right. So moving on to talk about the topic at hand today, we are finishing up Q4 and going into that scary season of business and in media of Q1. And it always tends to be slower for most businesses in Q1. And the thing about that is, Andrew, I always wonder, why does it have to be slower? Why? Is it because everyone blew their budget on Christmas? Like, that's not necessarily the case. It's almost like a cultural thing that all businesses seem to just think, I'm going to take my foot off the gas on Q1. I'm going to pull back my marketing in Q1. Whereas if you look at most successful companies, Andrew, Q1 is where they really ramp it up. That's where they start to get momentum for the whole entire year. And as an account executive or a director of sales or general sales manager, it is pivotal for you to make sure that you are rewiring your client's thought process on getting ahead of the game, starting out Q1 running. Because if you're going to wait to start really trying to get your name out there and be top of mind awareness in Q2 and Q3, you're too late.
Well, in the Q1 drought, I think you hit on it pretty well, but it's kind of like a myth almost. It's one of those things where it's just always been that way in the industry. And it's kind of similar to how people always say, oh, well, grandma's always got these little strawberry candies that just sit in there. And that's when you know you're a grandma or you're older, is when you've got those strawberry candies.
What about the Werther's Originals? Those are
right in line
classic
with that.
Old man candy.
Let's dump the Werther's and the strawberry candy because we don't need those. We're going to get it set up and early enough. And I know this is the first bullet point that we have in here, is don't wait until Q1 to have those conversations. Start them early. I know right now for us during this exact time of when we're recording this is kind of in that week right before Christmas. Start early. You should have already been contacting people, some of the bigger fish for 2025 and into the next year, whenever you may be listening to this. This is the perfect opportunity to get ahead of people before their budgets are actually set, to at least get in the room with them to show you or to show them why your business would be helpful to them into the next year. If
you have that relationship with your client, which hopefully you do, talk to them about what their quarterly earnings are like from Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4. And I'm guessing Q1's probably drastically lower than all of those other quarters. So let's put a strategy together. Let's get some urgency. Let's get ahead of this. Let's make Q1 great again. Why does Q1 have to be the slump quarter? Why does there have to be one at all? So let's start to plan ahead. I know that we're focusing at trying to finish Q4 really, really strong. You want to have the best year possible that you can have. But as December rolls on, even back into November, you got to start having that eye leaking over into 2025 or whatever, the next year might be. If you're listening to this in 2026 and whenever, you're starting to plan for that year, and you're planting that seed with your client that we got to have urgency on this. We got to hit the ground running, because if we take Q1 off, we're going to completely unravel all the momentum that we put in for this year. We're going to fall out of top of mind awareness with all these clients, all this work that we did. We've talked about before. It's like going to the gym and putting in all that work, and you built this great body and you're really proud of it. And you're like, Q1 though, I'm going to take it off, and I'm just not going to lift. I'm not going to exercise. I'm going to eat really unhealthy and completely mail it in all the way through March. Maybe April, I'll stop back at the gym again and start working out and putting in some effort.
Well, and it goes back to, I know you and I talked about this in the prep meeting earlier today, but an old football coach that I had when I was growing up in high school always told us this during the summer conditionings and the winter conditionings is, if you want to have a six-pack, you got to start that six-pack in the winter so that you can have it by the summer. It's not something that if you're looking in a pool party, for the same analogy sake, if you're having a pool party in June, you're not going to start working out in May and think that you're going to be able to have that happen in a 30-day, 60-day window. You got to have that prep way long in advance. And it's the same stuff that you should be already telling your clients as far as advertising goes and marketing goes. You're yourself as an account executive working your own book of business, and you shouldn't necessarily have it as a marathon the whole way through the year, or rather a sprint the whole way through the year. You should be having it as a marathon and knowing that everything that you're doing affects what happens months from now. So if you take your foot off the gas in Q1 because it's Q1, everything's a little slower, I'm not getting as many meetings, that's all right. Nobody's getting meetings. You should be working the opposite. You should be working twice as hard to get those meetings. So that way, when it gets to summer and it gets to the end of Q4, you're looking at like how I was this year, when it's July and August and you're looking at your numbers and you're going, man, I already hit my budget for the rest of this year, not taking my foot off the gas at all, but there's that less pressure to have to go into a meeting towards Q4 and saying, I got to make $20,000 by the end of this month to be able to hit my goal.
Yeah. And when you're reaching out to the client too, to talk to them about, really creating that sense of urgency for Q1, have an idea, have a campaign strategy in mind, have a spec spot ready, and go with some excitement and go to the client and say, guess what? I have an idea. I have a plan I put together. I worked with my team to overcome that traditional Q1 slump, get us ahead of the competition so that you're going to be able to grow in your market share for 2025, and you're going to gain potentially 20% more of the market share this year based upon this strategy. That's our goal. We're going to try to get ahead of the game because we know our competitors, they're going to take their foot off the gas. When they took their foot off the gas, that's when we go. And then they're going to be playing catch up with us the entire year. And that needs to be the strategy. And right now, when you as an account executive, and I know from being in all these different sales meetings, that's a little bit of the frustrating part is everybody's like, I'm ready to take a break. Q4 was super busy, and Q1 I just want to coast. Well, let's as account executive, let's make it easy for them. Let's implement the plan, have it put together, ready to go, present it to them, and say, hey, all you have to do is sign. We're going to do all the work, and then you just do your job because you're going to be running your business in Q1 regardless. Why don't we make some money while we're doing it?
I had a meeting yesterday actually with a business that they've been kind of doing some market research for their industry, and they were saying, okay, well, my competition's on a lot more stations doing XYZ, and I hear their ads a lot more. I'm hearing our ads, but not as much as I'm hearing the competition. And I did some additional digging and internally from our own organization, and there were some commercials where they had a huge blitz for a week or two, and they're not back on until March. So I went back to that business and didn't show them the exact schedule and everything, but I mentioned to them, I said, hey, your competition may be running a lot now, but they're taking their foot off the gas in Q1. That's where we can help you guys grow the most, is we can go in there and we can kind of plant that seed and make sure that in the 3 months that they're off the air, you're the only place that they're going to remember in your category. And you're going to leave them, like Adam said, in the dust once we get into Q2 and further on.
Yeah, that's the time right there. There is a gap in their marketing portfolio. And that's where you as the account executive and your client as the business owner, HR director, marketing director need to step in and fill that void and take it over. That is your ultimate opportunity. You talk about running the ball through the hole on the offensive line. That is your hole. That is your gap. And that's where you need to go through and take advantage. I know it's human nature to want to be able to, after the culmination of Q4 and the finale, you want to, okay, I'm going to take some time off and take a break. The great ones don't. They're in the gym the next week and they're getting after it. And this industry, it's no different. It's time to get after it, focus on 2025. What's the plan? Always be looking ahead. And at the same time, share that passion and that energy with your clients, because energy and passion is infectious. And if you're excited about an idea and you pitch them an idea, it might not be exactly what they want to do. You might change something, but if you're fired up about a Q1 plan and you have a whole strategy, how you want to get ahead of the competition and leave them in the dust, that's their baby. That business is everything to them. They're going to probably, at the very least, they're going to take a meeting with you and they're going to sit down and strategize with you. And then at that point, you're cooking with fire.
Well, and I know we've also got going to the next point of what we've got on our sheets here of what you're able to do as an account executive in Q1 and at the end of Q4 when people are on vacation for Christmas and for New Year's, and you start the year and people are either still on vacation because they haven't gotten back yet, or they're getting back into the swing of things for the beginning of the year. We've got plenty of other things that as an account executive, you can be doing to sharpen your tools that aren't necessarily making the calls as much. If you're not getting successful meetings and it's harder to come by, first of all, it shouldn't be harder to come by in Q1 to get meetings. But if you are, there's other things that you can be doing to supplement putting those pieces ahead for the future.
Yeah. And, one thing as we were planning this out, I was thinking, okay, Q1's a great time to pick your what we called white whales, the really big accounts that are going to take a lot of time to get out in front of. I'm going to circle back on that. You got to start working on that in Q4 because a lot of these businesses are setting their budgets, and at that point, they have their budget mostly spent. They're going to tell you that their budget's spent, but if you can give them a compelling enough of a VBR, they're going to meet with you and find the money to spend with you. But if you wait until Q1 to start really trying to get meetings with them, that pot is going to be a lot more shallow than it was maybe if you reached out late into Q3, early into Q4. So that's some of that pre-Q1 planning that if you're listening to this now and you haven't done that, you're already too late. You need to probably really identify, okay, going into this year, these are the 5 big dogs that I'm going to go after. Write them down, put them in front of you, and strategically start to send emails, stop by the office, send them a message on LinkedIn, leave them a voicemail. And I can tell you that, we hear on average it takes upwards of maybe 15 touch points to be able to get in the door with a client anymore. It's probably going to be double that with those what we call a white whale client. It's going to be upwards of 25 to 30 touches where you're going to have to, you're probably not going to have the direct number of who you need to reach out to unless, your company invests in an AI program that's going to give you the direct line, which I don't think most of us have that luxury. You're going to have to do it the old fashioned way. You're going to have to pick up the phone, smile and dial. And you know what? You don't have the right person, but could you pass me on to your marketing director and who that might be? And, utilize LinkedIn to maybe find the right person that you're trying to contact. And I'm noticing on LinkedIn a little bit, it's a lot. It probably is going to be a lot more difficult to get an appointment with someone because there's so many salespeople running their whole strategy through LinkedIn Messenger that you're ignoring people now. You don't want to talk to them, and you're kind of filtering that out. But find out who you want to talk to through searching them on LinkedIn, and then at that point, start to find their email address, find their phone number, and start to build a campaign, make notes, and start to reach out to them, and then eventually. You reach out enough times, they're going to say, God, this guy, Andrew, he's emailed me like 6 times, left me 2 voicemails and messaged me on multiple platforms. He must and he stopped by and left a message with the front desk. And this is all over a span of a month. I at least owe this guy a meeting because this isn't some fly-by-night account executive. He really wants to meet with me.
Or if you've tried email, you've tried call, you've tried LinkedIn, you've tried stopping in, and you still are not able to get at least a meeting with them, try something unconventional. I know we both had a former director of sales with us that would constantly tell us, do something that's out of the box, even if it's just a handwritten letter. something like that. That's so simple that
I love that.
people overlook. If I am someone and I'm a business owner, I get flooded with emails and calls all day long. I don't have the time to differentiate a call from Andrew selling me something on radio, or a call from Adam selling me something on radio or digital or whatever it may be. But if I get a handwritten letter in the mail that's addressed to me, and I'm like, oh, well, I don't usually get mail that's different than just bills or whatever it may be, or junk mail. I'll open it up, I'll look at it, I'll at least read it. Mm-hmm. Whereas sometimes, and I probably have this more than I could imagine, you don't get an email that's even read. They see that it's someone they don't know, straight to junk, straight to the trash can. Whereas if you have a handwritten letter, more times than not, they'll at least read the letter. And if you give enough of a compelling business reason, or just, hey, I took the time out of my day in Q4 at the end, closer to Christmas, New Year's, just to wish you and your team a Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, whatever it may be. I sent you a thing of flowers or chocolates or a gift basket or something small that shows that you actually went above and beyond, more than just the average Joe Schmo account executive that has constantly called you every single day, all week long, Monday through Friday, trying to get just 5 minutes of your time, that doesn't have a good actual reason on the phone to get in front of you other than to check a box that says, hey, I've got a meeting this week with whoever it may be from this business. Whereas I had one touch point, and it was to send you a gift basket that said, hey, I've got an idea for a marketing plan for your business. It's going to help XYZ, whatever it may be. They're going to look at that and they're going to go, oh my gosh, I'm going to call Andrew back right now.
Oh yeah. And, do something as little as just like you said, pick those 5 to 10 accounts that you're really trying to get a meeting with, that are kind of your wish list accounts, and write that handwritten letter. I know as account executives, we're moving so fast. It's almost like torture to sit down and write a letter. It is really hard. I know. Trust me, do it. Write it out, get a manila envelope, get one of your station t-shirts, maybe a sticker, put it in there with the letter, and throw your business card in there, send it out. And then I think you'll be shocked by how many of those accounts that you've been trying to email or leave voicemails for all of a sudden are returning your calls.
Or you can call back the next week or whenever it gets shipped. If you ship it out on a Friday, call back on a Tuesday or Wednesday the following week and say, hey, I sent over a package. I just wanted to check base, see if you were able to get it. Did you get it? Let me know what your thoughts are. If you've got time this week, I'd love to connect with you. Or if it's a gift basket of candy, say, hey, I took a risk on whatever candy you liked. Is there something better that I could have gotten you? Something that gets you in the door that's different than everybody else.
Yeah, it's all about setting yourself apart and not having that perception that you, again, like we talk about in other podcasts, that you're that telemarketer that's just calling down a list, just trying to get appointments and just trying to sell something. These are small things that you do that build relationships, that build depth, that build a true marketing partnership. And these things take time. It's not a quick turnaround, boom, 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 boom type of thing. These are actions that build substantial relationships that last years and years and stand the test of time. One other thing to transition to think about too, on top of this is, I think at this time of year, it's really a pivotal time to set some goals and to lay those out. And really, I'm big on writing them down, putting them out, making a sign, having it in front of you that you see it every single day. Are you going to make President's Club? You need to write it down, put it into existence. I'm going to make President's Club. This is the number that I have to hit to make President's Club, and track that, every month. Like, okay, in billing this month, I have to do, over the year, I have to do $600,000 in billing. Okay. So this is where I'm at right now. This is how much billing I have to add. And just, not that it's all about the dollars and cents, but it's another way to hold yourself accountable and track your progress. Hitting budget every month. Is that one of your goals? Is it to, grow a specific client's campaign, or, just grow your overall revenue numbers like I talked about before, but put it into existence and have it written down in front of you and be relentless about it and hold yourself accountable. Put it in your calendar and say, review yearly goals progress, and have that every month where you update your dry erase board or your document that you have saved on your computer or at your desk, where you're like, okay, wow, it's almost like looking at your investments, and you're like, you don't look at it for a month or two, and all of a sudden you look back and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm making so much progress. Yep. This is really motivating and exciting, and I want to keep marching forward now.
Yeah, and I know we're going to talk more about this too, and I think another great thing that you can do at the end of Q4 and start of Q1 is going through and actually taking some self-reflection time. figuring out what you as an individual are lacking, or looking back and saying, man, I did really great at giving the proposal from the CNA and I have a high closing ratio. But one thing I really didn't do a lot with this year is maybe getting the right number of appointments per week. I know that if I can get 3 more appointments per week with a closing ratio of 75%, or 4 more appointments per week with a closing ratio of 75% or 25%, that's an extra 1 to 3 closes per week that I could be getting, that I'm just leaving on the table because that's a gap in my talent.
And rely on your sales leader to help you with that. That it's supposed to be a collaborative relationship. Dig into those talent gaps. You're supposed to be doing that all year, but this is a time of year of reflection. And so it's organically going to happen, but really try to identify those training opportunities and work with your sales leader to find out what those are. If you're somebody that's not really great at self-reflecting, I know it sucks for someone to sit in a room and tell you how you're bad at certain things. Nobody likes to hear what we're not good at, but that is such an essential thing to make you more effective at what you do and make you a more polished and effective account executive. Sit down and say, what's something I could be doing? Am I, is my cold calling not on point? Am I making 20 cold calls and only making 1 appointment? Is that something I need to dial in? Is my digital knowledge not where it needs to be? Do I need to make periodic appointments with the digital team to enhance my knowledge base on the different tactics? So in meetings, I can speak to it more effectively and the clients can really get the clear picture of, wow, I need to be doing this tactic. This is what it's going to do for my business. Identifying those areas where you need to fine tune skills. I can tell you from a sales leader perspective that, all of us, no matter how good of an account executive you are, there's going to be a lot of them. And I highly suggest, when you're addressing those, to utilize some role playing also with your sales leader. And again, role playing is another exercise that's really uncomfortable that nobody likes doing, but it's so effective.
And it runs in tandem with how Adam was mentioning with goals, setting goals, short-term, long-term. You go into a new year, that's the whole new year, new me. Maybe one of the goals that you have set for yourself is, I'm going to strengthen my cold calling capabilities. That way, when I'm making 50 calls per week, like Adam was saying, I'm getting more than 5 appointments the following week or into the future. I'm able to make those calls and build on that. That way, if I call this one particular place and Erin at the front desk, if I answer and if she answers and she knows it's me, it's not oh my gosh, let me go get Todd from marketing to talk to you. It's you sit there and talk with the person at the front desk, the gatekeeper, for an additional 30 seconds to a minute, maybe even 2 minutes, just trying to get little small tidbits so that the next time you call, even if you didn't get the meeting with Todd from marketing, a little bit more to get you a little bit further and make that relationship a little bit more substantial.
Another thing that you can do to add depth to your approach for the following year, dig in and utilize the promotions calendar that's on RAB and look at all the different promotional days. I mean, there's a day every single day for something. National Margarita Day, National Ice Cream Day, National Pizza Day, National Taco Day, National Collared Shirt Day. I mean, there is something for absolutely everything. And I would write out 3 to 4, because not every one of them is going to speak to you. Some of them are ridiculous. And think of some clients that tie to those national holiday, not a holiday, but whatever the heck it is, national promotional day that it is, and put together a little promo that you can pitch them, do a spec spot, build a little campaign for them and pitch it to them. That right there is a funnel of ideas that you're not taking advantage of right now. That, hey, if you do 5 of those a month, and say you out of 5 of those a month, let's just say randomly throughout the year you do, let's say with that you do 60 of them, okay, over the course of the whole year, just throwing a number out there. If you close 5 to 10 of them, that's a lot of business right there that you didn't initially have, and you have that whole entire base to work off that promotions calendar that I think is honestly a phenomenal resource that is really overlooked.
Very underutilized. And Q1 is also a good opportunity too. And I think this is the last thing I have on my list. It's a great opportunity in Q1 to get back in contact with some of the places and some of the clients and partners to talk about new copy. I mean, for the most part, some businesses are going to want to run holiday commercials specifically. You get started into the new year. You don't want to go back to the same ad that they had running for the past 2-3 months previous to the holiday commercial that they had running. Get something new, get something refreshing. This is a great time to, as Adam mentioned, hone in on and sharpen your skills. Maybe as a copywriter, maybe you've got some new tidbits that you want to include, or, hey, the ads that I've been running, the campaigns, I have a higher turnover rate for cancellations. I want to be able to figure out if it's my actual copy that's the problem instead of the actual campaign, because those things work in tandem. You can't have a good campaign without good copy and vice versa.
Oh yeah. And not all account executives have a commercial copywriter on staff or they can write commercials for them. So really working on developing that skill and spending more time writing more effective and engaging, unique commercial copy, that's going to extend your client retention through the roof. And that is one of the biggest things. And we did this in a training this last week, Andrew, that, we worked on writing effective and engaging commercial copy. I think as an account executive in the media industry, we get a little bit lazy and lean on the whole repetition piece of it. Well, if they hear it enough, they're going to remember it. How about they can hear it a lot, but it's really good and it's really engaging. And we talk about how it attacks the broca, the part of your mind that, makes you have a reaction and remember things and, really start to hone that part of your game in, because if you do, you're going to have a lot more success for your clients. And that is one of the biggest things I've identified from my chair that all account executives and sales leaders are completely missing the boat on, that we need to slow down. Like we talked about writing letters and doing things like that. We get moving so fast. We just want to get the commercial done. We want to get it out. We want to get it to the client, and so that it's airing and we can check that box and move on. If you have to take a little bit longer and engage some people around you and spend more time researching and being more creative. Now, I'm not telling you to spend 3 weeks to write a 30-second commercial, but spend a little bit more time and put some more care and effort and creativeness into writing effective commercial copy. It's going to make your career a lot more successful, and it's going to make your client's campaign much more successful. And also too, guys, just to wrap up, we're kind of running out of time here. The biggest thing, one perspective too, from a sales leader, how about incorporate an engaging sales contest in Q1? You really work as a sales leader to come up with a sales contest that really engages the account executive so you can drive that competitive nature. And, all of your account executives, for the most part, I'd say upwards of 90% of all account executives are pretty competitive people. You might have those few outliers that are effective account executives that aren't competitive. But as a sales leader, really try to implement your most effective and most creative sales contest in Q1 to really light that fire and start that momentum going into the start of the year.
Yeah, no, I think you hit it head on.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, thank you again for listening or watching the latest episode of the Local Lens Media Podcast. Thank you to our amazing sponsor, Home Shield Roofing. Make sure to reach out to Steve at homeshieldroofingandexteriors.com. They're going to help you with everything that you guys need to give you a quality roof and give you a quote that you can really rely on and trust.
Yeah.
All right, guys. And remember, always in media, you need to be known before you're needed. We'll see you next time.